So I tried really hard not to write this sermon. Every time I sat down to write, I tried to write something different. I wanted to write a lovely sermon about the Omer and the various moments in the Jewish calendar when we're called to look inward and engage in self-improvement. But every time I started to write, my words fell flat. It was a sermon for an alternate reality. It was the sermon I wish I could be delivering right now, but it wasn't the sermon I needed to give right now, because it has been a challenging Passover. Not in a spiritually enriching way, but in an exhausting, heartbreaking kind of way. Like every Jewish holiday we have encountered since October 7th, our celebration feels a bit hollow. Our gatherings feel more like sitting Shiva than celebrating Chag. It's nearly impossible to fully embrace the joy and celebration of our liberation while campus protests move beyond condemnation of the Israeli government's military action to a full-blown embrace of anti-Semitic language. Are we really liberated when chants to burn Tel Aviv to the ground greet Jewish students on their way to the library to study for exams? When campus leaders argue that Zionists deserve to die? For some context, I'm an alumna of Barnard College, and my mother worked at Columbia University right across the street. So I've known that campus for a very long time. It has been my home for a very long time. My heart ached as I read an email from one campus rabbi encouraging students to go home because he did not feel that he could ensure their safety on campus. Or when I received a message from the director of the Hillel explaining that they would be offering police escorts for Jewish students to walk into and out of the building on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. The same campus, the same Hillel, where I engaged freely and safely in my own exploration of Jewish identity and practice. A Hillel that is in so many ways responsible for the Jew I am today and the rabbi that I am today. But what has been most concerning to me is witnessing a rapid polarization of rhetoric and opinions on both ends of the political spectrum. A binary approach to an incredibly complex situation leads to a lack of curiosity and removes any opportunity for conversation, flexibility, or understanding. A binary approach, the idea that there is one side that is purely good and another side that is purely evil. An approach that I have seen across the board. It creates a flattening of identities and perspectives. In this worldview, if you are pro-Israel or a Zionist, or for some, even just a Jew, you are a white settler colonialist responsible for genocide. And if you are pro-Palestinian, you are a vile anti-Semite. But it's not that simple. It never has been. And the more that this type of language is disseminated, the more we dehumanize and demonize one another. Right now, we are in the period of the Omer, the 49 days between our liberation from slavery in Egypt to the giving of Torah at the foot of Mount Sinai. Because the Israelites were not ready for revelation immediately following the Exodus. They still had a slave mentality. They struggled to understand fully what their freedom meant. They were mentally still in Mitzrayim, the Hebrew word for Egypt, which literally translates to the narrow place. They needed time and space to grow, to learn, to reflect on who they were under slavery and who they aspired to be as a free people. The Omer today is a period of self-reflection and refinement, a communal spiritual reenactment of our ancestors' journey from slavery in Egypt to revelation at Mount Sinai. In the Kabbalistic tradition, the Omer is a time in which we reflect on the many Mitzrayims, the many narrow places that exist within each of us and hold us back from revelation, from fully actualizing ourselves into the kind of people that we want to be in this world. When we count the Omer, we do something curious. We don't count down like we do on New Year's Eve. We count up, expressing our ancestors and our own excitement as we inch closer to revelation. It is deeply optimistic and anticipatory of the exaltation and the joy of Torah. And yet, the Omer is also understood to be a period of mourning. Some Jews refrain from getting haircuts, shaving, getting married, or attending concerts. And at first glance, it's a peculiar positionality to take on what one would assume should be a joyous and exciting journey. Rabbi Wendy Geffen offers, "The set of 7 weeks enables us to live in the real, complicated world of emotional complexity, fully experiencing both joy and sadness, incarnate in each day of the counting." In other words, Rabbi Geffen is saying, human experience is not binary. We contain multitudes. Multiple experiences can be equally true at the same time. If we can be joyful and mournful in the same breath, we too can hold many truths at the same time. I believe that the Jewish people have a right to live peacefully and freely in our ancestral homeland. And I believe that the Palestinian people have a right to self-determination and to a safe and peaceful life. I believe that every Israeli held hostage in Gaza should be returned home immediately. I believe that innocent Gazans should be able to live free of the tyranny of war. And I believe that Hamas is a terrorist organization that must be stopped. I believe that the right to peacefully protest should be protected. And I believe that when words spoken at those protests incite violence and hatred against any group, that right must be rescinded. I believe that you can support the cause of Palestinian liberation without being an anti-Semite. I believe that to be a Zionist, you not only can, but must be critical of immoral actions by the Israeli government. I believe all these things simultaneously, because truth is far more textured and intricate than we imagine. And it's only when we embrace these nuances, when we move beyond the sarcastic memes and the pithy comments and the one-sided headlines, that we actually can make progress, that we can move towards morality, towards the future that so many of us here in this room and in rooms in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv and Rafah and Ramallah and Columbia's campus envision. This is the sheaf, the bundle of wheat that I want to offer as we count the Omer this year. That it is not this or that, but this and that. As we count the Omer, may we reflect on the ways in which we are stuck in our own narrow places. What do we each need to do to pull ourselves out from that narrow place? To open our arms into the expanse and our hearts, and most importantly, our ears. To expand our love and compassion rather than digging ourselves deeper into the crevasse of anger and hatred. And I will be honest, it's not easy. I am angry, and I am sad, and I am lonely. But Judaism never demands that we are perfect, but rather that we do our best to lead with love, understanding, and compassion. It's a practice, a journey, and we're just at the beginning of it. The Omer is 49 days. Shavuot, Revelation, occurs on the 50th day. And it is after that 49th day, before we reach Revelation, that we end the morning rituals ready to embrace revelation. And while I pray that we will be in that space 44 days from now, I'm honestly not sure that we will be. I don't know exactly what needs to happen for us to reach that place, but I do know that the way that we as a society are engaging in this conversation is not going to get us there. And while we can't control what others do or say, we can control what we do and what we say and how we choose to behave and interact with others. It is up to us to hear the call of the Omer, to look inward, to hold multiple truths at once, to reach out to others, to be vulnerable and honest, to allow compassion to grow around our grief, to embrace a liberation that ensures the safety, respect, and dignity of every human being. Then, and perhaps only then, will we, all of us, as a Jewish people and as humanity, be ready for God's revelation. So tonight we are going to count the Omer. And week 1 of the Omer focuses on the traits of chesed, of loving kindness. And today, specifically, is dedicated to the endurance of loving kindness, a trait that feels particularly relevant in this moment. What are we doing to nurture our loving kindness to ensure that it does not tire, that our compassion does not fatigue? What do we need to do for ourselves? What do we need from those we love to nurture and cultivate that loving kindness?